Hey everybody, and welcome to The Whole Package by Premier Packaging. I'm your host, Billy Watkins, and our guest today is Lindsay Zeller. Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. You are our learning and development leader here at Premier Packaging.
That is me.
Let's, before we dig into that, let's tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How'd you get here?
Yeah, well, born and raised in Louisville, so lived here my entire life with the exception of going straight down the street to Lexington. I went to the University of Kentucky, but am a homebody at heart and didn't venture too far from home.
Me either. I mean, I like to travel and everything. What do you like about Louisville?
You know, it's big enough, but it's also small enough.
Yeah.
So I feel like I run into people that I went to elementary school with, and it's also big enough that if you want to kind of get away from those people, you can kind of hide a little bit, which sounds terrible.
Well, it has everything that any other big city would have, basically. Yeah. Maybe not as much of it, but yeah.
But Lexington was a little too tiny for us, so that's
right.
We had to get back home.
That is way more of a small town,
it's more
college town kind of feel.
It's all college town.
And horses. And
horses
farms.
in UK.
Yeah.
Which I do love. But.
So you have extensive experience in learning and development, instructional design. Mm-hmm. Your work specifically focused on cultivating a collaborative and positive learning culture.
Sure.
So let's unpack that.
Yeah. So to unpack it in, I guess, the most simplest fashion or form is really, if you think about Premier, you know, our people are our biggest asset. And in order to grow and kind of cultivate and develop our people, learning is at the heart of that. So at the simplest form, instructional design is creating learning opportunities that make learning engaging and develop our workforce. So whether it's compliance training or role-specific training, it's creating engaging learning opportunities for our people.
Because there's so many things that we all have to know that are not packaging specific, mm-hmm. right? But
not
very
glamorous.
Important in terms of safety and compliance and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What about the? Have you? How long have you been here, by the way?
So I have been here. It's been 3 years. It was 3 years in July. So
I feel goofy that I would even ask that, and we've never met.
We've never met. I know you probably have gotten a bunch of emails from me with our monthly trainings and. Yep. Hopefully not reminders that you have not completed your training.
What if I missed last month's?
Well, you've got a professional development month, so you can kind of make it up this month.
I lucked out because
you'll get an email from me shortly as a friendly reminder.
Since this is a professional development month, is there anything specific that you'd call out for me that you think I need to dive into? I mean, we've never met, so that's
never met, so let's see. We have a lot of communication. So I think given your role as podcast extraordinaire, you can always cultivate that.
A little help with my communication skills.
Maybe.
You're probably
Not
right.
that there's anything wrong, but there's always room for learning more.
So instructional design, explain that to me a little bit more. What exactly?
So it's understanding a topic or a subject matter, and then figuring out the best facilitation method, whether it's an e-learning, for example, what's in Wiser or our learning management system, whether it's something that's best taught small group or in person, or whether it's a combination of both. And maybe there's practical application, but instructional design is really taking the topic, doing some digging, and putting the puzzle pieces back together.
Kind of breaking it down.
And creating the best course of action, so to speak, to teach it and facilitate it in an effective way.
So what drew you to this field initially? Because it's kind of fair to say that you're a teacher, right?
Kind of. Yeah. Just not of little kids. So,
big kids,
which are not always easy. But my road to learning and development is pretty atypical for most people that kind of end up in this field. It was a windy road. Straight out of college, ended up getting into sales. I was a communications major. So I always liked communication. I always knew I wanted to work with people, which is what drew me to sales. Is I knew I wanted to be, out doing things and meeting new people and kind of working in that capacity. And ended up in a sales role within a higher education organization. And started kind of wearing multiple hats of training internal folks and then training our partners, and it just kind of morphed into where I am now. So I've taken little bits of things that I've enjoyed in different roles that I've had,
Right.
and they all really centered around working with people, communication, and then being able to train and kind of help people understand what it is they're working towards.
Is it typical for companies premier size, or are we kind of ahead of the trend here that we have these type of opportunities?
I think a little bit ahead of the trend.
Yeah.
It's something that is really, over the last 10 years or so, become more of a thing that you would see.
Right.
But especially at larger size companies, people understand that it's really recruiting and retaining your workforce is super important, and building that culture that drives around making people feel valued and supported is something that I think a lot of companies are going for. So Premier, it's really kind of what drew me to Premier, is the fact that Premier sees that and has put the resources in place to
Right.
make sure our people are supported.
And it's true that everybody kind of learns differently.
Yeah.
Or we all have different ways of bringing it in and retaining it. What are we doing? What are the ways that we are putting stuff out there? Visual, verbally. What's the
Yeah.
key for us?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think utilizing Wiser is a huge resource for us, because we're able to facilitate and drive training in a consistent manner across the organization with limited resources. But it's also something that we partner with various different leaders in different departments to help talk through how they can train teams, working on onboarding and kind of building out how to onboard new hires and new team members effectively. So it's really just kind of keeping it interactive, and kind of tailoring it to whatever the training need is. So everything's a little bit different. It just depends on what it is we're doing.
Because you have there's so many opportunities where
Mm-hmm.
either we're onboarding people for either office work or warehouse work,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
drivers, equipment operation. It's all over the place.
It's all over the place, and just like no two people are the same, no two trainings are going to be the
Right.
same. So that's part of the instructional design process, is really me asking a lot of questions and understanding what a topic is, and then how to articulate it in a way that is going to be retained by someone that is not familiar
Right.
with that subject matter.
Are there any particular training programs that you've helped develop here that kind of stand out, you're proud of, or
Yeah, that's a hard question, because I think they're all unique and they all kind of hold a little special place
Right.
in my heart and in my memory. But off the top of my head, and this one is a recent one, but we just recently revamped our Introduction to Sustainability course.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a fun course to build. The topic and the subject matter was interesting and exciting,
Right.
but we were able to think a little bit outside of the box as far as how we were going to use different interactive features within the course. We used a lot of bright colors that made it fun, and it just was a little different than some of our other courses.
Right.
So I don't want to say the others aren't fun, but this one was really fun with some of the colors and the different graphics and whatnot that we were able to create.
You get lucky with the content sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're designing a training program, what sort of steps are involved in that process?
Yes.
That kind of breaking down and putting back together.
Yeah, lots of steps. So it really starts with someone either raising their hand and saying there is a need, or from an organizational perspective, someone saying, this is something we'd like to focus on. But really the first step is trying to understand and kind of work with a subject matter expert, which is somebody who is the expert in whatever the topic is, and really understand what their learning objectives are, who the audience is, and really what the overall goal is
Right.
for the training. So that involves a lot of questions and a lot of partnership between myself as the learning and development expert and then the subject matter expert for the topic, and really getting to understand those pieces. And then from there, it's how do we put it together? So you've broken down this puzzle and now we need to put it back together in a
Right.
different way. So we're just looking at, okay, we've got this topic, but how do we make it engaging? Is it, micro learnings? Is it one full training? Is it a video? What interactivity do we need to make it engaging? And then it goes through a review process and gets approved and then goes out into the world.
How long does what's that process take typically?
It just depends.
Right.
Typically it takes at least a month. But that's pretty quick. So it's a process trying to pull out a lot of information and then rebuild and create graphics and whatnot. So, and it also just depends on how much tweaking needs to be made, or if it's a multi-part training, or if there's interactivity, then some of it's in person, or what the follow-up might be. So it all just depends.
Do you... certainly, we talked about the generalized training that's not really particularly packaging based. Sustainability is, that was certainly part of the packaging industry. But how much have you learned in the last 3 years?
Oh my, it's kind of funny because you become almost this like little expert in whatever it is that you're building a course for.
Right.
So, which is another reason I love what I do, is everything's different and it's always a chance to learn something new. So I've learned a lot on topics that I probably never thought I would learn
industry
about.
Specific, HR specific.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's all over the place.
Performance management. It's something that, like on your LinkedIn page, it says it's one of the top skills you use here at Premier. I was told that because I have I don't think I have a fully fleshed out LinkedIn page, which I've been reminded of repeatedly. But so what is performance management? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so a lot of people view performance management as their dreaded annual performance review. But really what we try to do is have people look at it from a cycle perspective, that it's really kind of broken into buckets that shouldn't be anything that's daunting or, a stretch to have to do. It shouldn't be scary. It should be a continuous cycle that at the first of the year, you're gaining alignment with your leader on what goals are, and it's how you can make the best impact within yourself and for the business and within your department. So it's setting goals, it's setting those expectations on how you can make that impact. It's monitoring, so it's consistent check-ins. There should not be surprises. It's raising your hand if you need feedback or you need assistance. It's getting feedback from your leader, and then at the end of the year, it's the formal putting the bow review. So it should be kind of a fluid conversation and an opportunity for people to grow and learn, and again, just kind of ask for help and gain feedback and collaborate and kind of think strategically. I'm not really necessarily a serious person, but I always do try my best to take that seriously at the end of the year when I do my reviews and actually take time to put as much feedback and ideas. And it's actually as an employee, it's a good thing. Yeah, it's a time to. It's a reflection. It's a reflection, and then the goal setting is a look ahead. So, goals trickle up. We all want Premier to be successful. We all want to move the business forward, and it's our individual impact. So it's gaining alignment and just making sure you and your leader have those open conversations throughout the year, so that the final review is not a scary one.
Not a terrible thing.
Right. Yeah.
We all learn different. We all probably do our performance reviews different. Do you find, is everyone coachable at the end of the day, or are there some people that are just hopeless?
I'd like to think that everybody is coachable. I would like to say that yes, everybody is coachable. However, someone has to be willing to accept the feedback and willing.
What's a good way if you've got somebody who's got walls up that can't necessarily take that type of criticism or constructive criticism, we'd say. What's a good way around that?
Yeah, I think, again, if you have consistent ongoing communication to where someone doesn't feel like they're being put on the defensive. Right. But I think a lot of times just being direct and stating, what the expectation is and kind of how, from a constructive standpoint, how maybe we can move forward versus just focusing on the negative. I think a lot of times people in that position, it's because they feel like they're on the defensive. So it's kind of trying to take those barriers out.
I do everything perfectly, and there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah. We all know those people.
I was saying that about.
Oh, that's you. Okay. But no, I'd like to think everybody is coachable, but the people that are not really willing to accept feedback, it does make it a challenge. So
it does.
It's a leadership challenge that we all face.
And we work through that.
Or
we
That's
just
right.
cut no. We're getting in sensitive subjects here, aren't we?
Let's change the subject.
You're in the packaging industry now. You've been in whatever you want to call this, private sector business for a while, but you actually did start out in academia.
I did, yes.
Academia.
Yeah.
Well, what was that? What were you doing?
So very similar to what I'm doing here, but building a team of it was a recruiting team for an e-learning department at the University of Louisville. So working with building training programs and working with their e-learning department.
Was that hard for you as a Cat fan? Was that hard for you
so
working in the belly of the beast?
Funny story that hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but when I had my oldest son at the time when I took that job was 3 years old. And one of our favorite videos as a family that we have is my husband telling him that I was going to go work for U of L.
Yeah.
And it was probably 10 minutes of hysterics that I don't want mommy.
He wasn't having
I don't want mommy to work for the Cardinal Birds. And that's all you can hear. That's the only thing that's audible in the entire video.
That's funny.
He has been a diehard UK fan since birth and still is. Funny. So he was not happy, but it was a great opportunity. U of L's great. I have no bad blood with U of L.
And you get to work in Louisville and not Lexington.
I am a Cats fan.
Yeah.
So.
It's all right. We're all one big beautiful state.
That's right.
I mean, what's different? I guess in academia versus corporate learning, students are. It's kind of what they're there for. They're there to learn, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously there because some of them, I don't want to say because they have to be. Right. But from a corporate standpoint, I mean, it's different in the sense that you're looking at organizational goals. So it's a common goal versus an individual goal, as a student achieving their academic success. So really, from a corporate standpoint, it's what can we do to help from a corporate or an organizational standpoint to grow.
What we kind of touched on this a little bit, but what does Premier do differently than other corporations? I mean, again, not everybody's got a Wiser. Not everybody does. Puts this kind of commitment.
You just put the nail on the head there. I mean, the resources that we have, the time and the commitment that people have put into our monthly trainings. Leaders are on board. They want to train their teams.
I will say they're very well done. They're very well done. They're extremely professional and almost it's like and maybe it just didn't occur to me that we're doing. It's not like we're buying these from somewhere. We're making all of this stuff.
We are. So that's the other unique feature that I was we've been able to tailor a lot of it to really Premier's culture and values and kind of what we stand for versus an out of the box product that might not resonate as well.
Right.
So
who's doing the voiceover work? What? Who is that? You?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back. It's probably because I didn't do my training this month. Damn it! I have to go back and listen.
This month is a little different. That one, I will caveat, we did purchase this one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of serious.
It was a serious topic.
It was a serious.
And there's
topic.
lots of rules and regulations behind it.
Certainly. Well, God, all right. I'm going to have to go back because your voice is not, it's not resonating.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you do a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
If you ever need anybody to help out, I know I'm not a serious person. If you ever training on something,
I would love you to, if you want to do a voiceover, that would be great.
I could, no problem.
Yeah.
I charge by the word.
Okay. Well, all right. Just tell me who to bill.
So, finally, if you could give any advice to someone new to this field or thinking about starting a career in learning and development, what would that be? Yeah,
I think first and foremost, it's just doing your own personal research. There's a lot of tools and technologies that you can kind of explore on your own. So kind of just testing those out and kind of getting familiar with those. There's also a lot of professional organizations centered around learning development, talent management that have great resources. But kind of like any career, I think it's raising your hand and seeking out opportunities for, maybe shadowing someone or asking how they got into the field or into the role, and kind of being your own advocate and networking and just getting your interest out there.
Yeah, fight for it.
Fight for it. Yeah.
I love it. I learned a lot today, which I guess is kind of the whole darn point, right?
Makes me happy. Yeah, that's good.
So nice to have you on, Lindsay
Yes.
Zeller, everyone. And I'm Billy Watkins. This has been The Whole Package by Premier Packaging. Until next time, bye-bye.
Do you have comments, questions, or ideas about this topic? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Please visit primpack.com/podcast to let us know what you think. Thanks.